Vlogs back, everybody. Welcome to the devlog movie for DH Files. I was about to say captive, but it's DH Files. Right now it is Friday at Friday evening, November 8th, and I did record the intro to this video way back in October, but now that I'm finally editing through the videos, I decided that I don't really like it. So here we are, back again. Anyway, if you're interested to learn more about DH Files, then I strongly recommend that you check out this video before you continue with this one. This video will talk about the game and pretty much all of its highlights within 10 minutes or less. It will also cover the previous games that this game is a sequel to, which is both Captive You Are My Idol and Love Throne at the 6ix9ine Motel. But if you've already seen that, then welcome! Soon enough, we are going to jump back into the past of October. It'll say it like somewhere down here. But anyway, just to preface, this video will go through some guides as to how I do a couple of mechanics within DH Files. By no means are they step-by-step walkthroughs, they're guides. So what I'll do is I'll open up my files, briefly explain how they work and how I went about it to eventually reach the end goal. I think moving forward, I'll create my tutorials more like that as opposed to the hand holding of one event line to the next event line, because as we create more complicated systems, then you should have a stronger baseline as to how the RPG Maker engine work. As you get better with the RPG Maker engine, you don't need it line for line. Sometimes you just need a quick guide to say, oh yeah, I didn't really think about that. Alright, I know exactly how that works. And that's exactly what this devlog will do. But other than that, you can also just toss it off in the background, watch while you develop your game, and hopefully what I do helps inspire you to continue to do what you gotta do. If any of you guys see my Caster's Trap devlogs, then I'm still the same guy. I just keep videos off on the side while I develop away. And hopefully this one will do it for you. So for the first thing that I did, can you guess what it was? Can you guess? I know you know it. You guys definitely know it. And that is to put it all in a document. Because what you can't get scripted, you can't get coded. Not sure if that's the same, but that was pretty good. For real, it's probably like the #1 thing I give for an advice is to make sure you have it all documented out. You don't necessarily have to script it line for line for line, but at the very least know your key points and how you're going to transition from one key point to the next key point, because it's easier to hit the wall in this document than it is while you're coding. No one wants to go 5 months down in coding and then be like, yeah, I hit a wall, so I guess I'm done now. That certainly happened to me many times before in my high school years. But anyway, just to kind of show you what I do for mine, I first of all have a quick overview, which is just a very quick description of what I am expecting. Because this game is very small, I created what's known as a technical summary, and it kind of lists all the different maps, all the different mechanics, and all the number of characters that I'm expected. You don't really have to do a technical summary, but I would recommend it for different key chapters. Like if you know you're going to have 5 characters in chapter 1 or section 1, then note that down. This way when you're going to create your game, you can just look at those key notes and be like, all right, I'm gonna just hammer out all of the pixel art for these characters right now and then get to the scripting and putting it all together later. Now, I know I say you don't have to script it out line for line for line for who's speaking, but personally, I like doing it. I tend to get very, very immersed into the dialogue and to the drama or characters, so I like to actually script it out. And it's also great for when I come to these moments in the actual RPG Maker editor, and I can decide, hey, was that actually pretty good what I had back then, or do I want to change it up and do it a little bit differently? Anyway, this whole OneNote is available for you guys if you decide to donate on the game page. It will come wrapped up in the whole entire game file, but I'll talk about more of that towards the end of this video. And this is also where future TheOdie ends, so I bid you all adieu. So the first difficult thing I had to do was art. Okay, so this is actually where it gets kind of funny, because when I developed Love Throne, I use all RTP assets. But of course, when I developed Captive, I use all of my art. Well, considering that Captive used the MZ3D engine and it's planned to use it again, I think I'm just going to use what I did for Captive and then just recreate the stuff that I did in Love Throne in the style of Captive. Now, it will be a little bit weird because it's going to feel like a little bit of a downgrade. But hey, I guess you could just call it a demake, right? Right? Anyway, here's our boy Detective Hearts. And lo and behold, the new Detective Hearts. So today just happens to be September 18th at pretty much 8 p.m. and there's still a little bit more that I gotta create, and the biggest of challenges that's about to come is creating Love Throne 69 Motel. That one's gonna take a little bit of time, so as you can imagine, this won't be done in like a 20-hour segment like the other game. This one will take just a little bit more effort. Here is Love Throne 69 Motel, and excuse me for being so lazy to pull up screenshots instead of the actual game, but it was developed in MV and I did uninstall MV, and I don't want to install it just to open up that map. Besides, this is the only one that we'll be creating, which is just a lobby. Anyway, so my thoughts is that I do want the floors to stay red. I think I do want to keep the 6-9 to be purple. I'm not sure if I want the walls to stay wooden, and same for the ceiling, but I guess we'll see when we come to it. I'm just going to take the ones that I did for Captive, copy it, bring it over into DH files, and anything I don't use I'll just delete it afterwards. But I believe we're going to need some A's. This is usually the floor tile. I'll do grid settings, hit it with the 24 by 24, turn this thing on, which is my macro keys. There's some automated things that I program into this for a sprite. That's gonna make my life a little bit easier. Well, while it's loading, I'll just go ahead and show you guys that the first thing I do is that I take the sprite size and I divide both by 2. And this is the native 1 pixel by 1 pixel that I actually draw in. Now, if I was a real pro, I would have created my color palette a long time ago. That's something I'm gonna work on in my future project. For now, I'm just gonna stay consistent with what I did for this one, which is to just find a random color. I'm gonna go with red, and boom. This one's pretty decent. This was a rug tile. So I can just take my red, paste it in there, find something a little bit darker. I do hue shifting, so boom. Alright, and now that this thing is ready, you can actually see how it's programmed. And what I'm going to do is double the sprites. So sprite double. Bam, there it goes. Not too bad. Just going to paint the background black to make it easier on my eyes. Not to be incredibly lazy, but I am quite curious to see what it looks like with white walls. Let's try dark. Looks a little too basic. I kind of like the walls. Gives it a little bit more character, I think. So guys, it's been a couple of weeks since I last updated the vlogs, and as you can imagine, a lot has happened. I went on vacation and did absolutely nothing. Just kidding. I actually worked on a good, decent bit, and let's start checking it out. So first of all is, of course, here's the Love Throne 6-9 Motel. Okay, remember what I said. It's a little bit of a demake of sorts. The quality doesn't necessarily get better, but hey, you're more immersed in the environment. The characters will make sense once you start to see Aelin if you have not seen any of Captive just yet, and it will feel more immersive. Pretty sure I said that already, but here's the big surprise, because I decided to work on something that I have never done before, and because of that, as you can imagine, it only looks so good. So, don't judge me too hard. Here it is. I did face graphics, and don't look at this one. The terrible things happen. Don't just okay. Ignore them. Look at the next two over. So here we got Detective Hearts. Here's his OG. Here's his new version, his demake version. And just because I had to, she was the main character in Captive, I had to do one for her as well. That's Aelin. I wanted to do one for the motel owner as well, but I decided to just stick with these two. As I improve my art style, then I'll be able to do it more efficiently. So for now, just keeping it to these two lads, these two main protagonists. Right off the bat, I will say, staring at Detective Hearts, I'm probably going to do something different to his eyes because I feel like a frog is looking right at me or something. Something about it just feels a bit uncanny. Aelin feels a little bit more natural, but I don't know. Something about it also just feels off, but I don't know what I can do to fix it, so she's probably just going to stay the way she is. Detective Hearts will probably change as we go through it. But what if I were to say that the lore gets deeper into the stuff that I've been doing? Okay, so now we're gonna sidestep away from art and finally get into the programming, and this is where things gets kind of crazy. So before you make any game, or before I do at least, I always focus on this: what sort of game mechanic do I want to make? And I ask myself, is it possible? How difficult is it to do? And if I can, to do it first. So there are two major mechanics going on here, and there's like a 0.5, but I'll talk about that 0.5 later. First of all, the way the game is going to work is that Detective Hearts is going to watch Aelin, and then he's going to be able to interject anytime she speaks. So if you ever played an Ace Attorney game, it's going to be very, very similar to that. The second one is that we have to create the live stream chat. That one is surprisingly more difficult than the first one, because with show text and the way that it works in RPG Maker is that it will freeze the game. So if you show a text for what Aelin is saying, then try to use show text to show what the live stream chat is saying, then the live stream chat will just appear and disappear, and then the text will appear and disappear, and it will just look incredibly awkward. So what you have to do instead is try and find what's known as a gab window. And a gab window, gab stands for, what does gab stand for? The gab window fulfills that jibber jabber by placing such text outside of the message window box and at the corner of the screen. By Yanfly Channel. I mean, no, totally knew that. So it creates an external text to appear that's outside of the mainstream show text feature that is built into RPG Maker. And this way we could just have the live stream chat always there. And there was one way to do it with just showing pictures, but I didn't want to go through that mess. That's awful. Because anytime you need to change the text, you have to do it through images, and then you gotta get the right X and Y coordinates, and then when it comes to usernames, you gotta fix that properly. That's a nightmare. Don't do it that way. But this was where it gets even more difficult. That's right, the lore and difficulty gets deeper. So unfortunately, the one provided by Yanfly or Visustella, it doesn't exactly work here, because there's only so much you can do with it, and the gap window will just stay at the very top and show as a text that runs across the screen. Not what I'm looking for. I want a live stream chat on the top right, but luckily I managed to find it through the power of Google by typing in Gab window, and I found MK Gab Windows by Aerosys. I mean, as you can see, it's got some super cool features. You could display HP, MP, icons. You can customize it to however you want. You could just do straight up text, as you can see from the day 1:15 p.m. And that's exactly what I decided to do for this live stream chat, except it's not as automatic as you would hope it to be. And what I mean by that is that if you enter a text, it will not carry over and go to the next line. You actually have to know when to cut it and bring it over. So if there's a chat that's too long, it will just get cut off, so you have to manually find where it cuts off. And that's where it gets more difficult because of the username. So now I gotta limit to a number of characters for the username and test it out to see how much it carries over. But for the most part, I'm getting ahead of myself. I do want to talk about this a little bit. So we have a Gab window, which is this first one, and that's the background of the live stream chat. And then we actually have 9 lines or 9 little sections within this Gab window, and it's literally just a Gab window on top of Gab window 1 to show that text. And I do it 9 times. That's as far as it'll go, and then that's how it shows it. And then over into a common event that I created, which is called Gab window push. And all it does is, if it has not reached 9 lines yet, it's just going to push it one at a time. But if it does reach the very, very bottom, it has hit all 9 of them, then the Gab window at the first layer is going to equal that of 2. 2 is going to equal that of 3. So it creates this illusion that the chat is getting pushed up, and then whatever's new in the chat will just be entered in there. So for anything that's too long, where it's 2 lines, it actually gets pushed twice. So you get the first line, and then it pushes the second line. So yeah, there's a bit of manual process that goes on here, but hey, overall, it ended up a lot easier and a lot simpler than I was worried about, so I'm honestly happy about it. Which brings me to the next thing, and that is, I would like your guys' help. If you're watching it now, then it probably doesn't matter too much, but if you are subscribed, then you probably saw a post asking if you wanted to be in my game, and it's for this. I asked if anyone wanted to enter a username for this live stream chat, and it's going to be randomized. This is the 0.5, by the way, that I'm talking about. So each of the live stream chat, I decided to give them a personality so they can reappear and it feels more natural and more real. So I needed to give them names, some identity, and of course, hopefully some of you guys decide to go ahead and do it. As of right now, I don't know. I'm about to create that at this very moment. I also asked a bunch of my friends as to whether or not they wanted to be in it. And overall, I just think it's just fun to do. Community, synergy, and fun. Yeah. But the lore gets even deeper. So, now that you know that all of this goes on, this is where I need to go back to the OneNotes, because I got something crazy to show you. I spent a lot of time in the OneNotes just organizing this. So I got a section called the stream chat, but this didn't exist until like a weekend ago. Because if we go into the script, you're gonna see all of these to A, B, C, D, all the way through M, and yeah, there are some that I decided to just delete and obsolete out. But they are the flow of the script. The way the game works is that Aylin will say something, it's like a topic, and Detective Hearts can interject, but also the stream chat will comment based on what she says. So that's why we have all these different categories. And at first, it didn't have the number next to it. It was literally just the stream comments, and I just went through it like that. But then I decided, you know what, they need an identity. Some of them should be the same person. So that's where the numbers come in. I started IDing them, but then I was like, what if there's some inconsistency? Because it eventually got up to ID 26, so I'm not gonna remember who ID 22 was, or ID 6, or ID 9 was. So of course I had to go back and create this stream chat table. starting with their ID, copy and pasting everything that they're saying, and just check for consistency. But then while I was doing this, I decided, you know what would be a good idea? Is if I also ID'd where the script that they appear, if it's in A, if it's in D, if it's in E, F, G, and that's where we get the letters in front of the numbers. And this will actually help me so much when I go back and put it into the game, because I decided to create a gap window text library. So everything that's in A will be said in A, and you're gonna see that all of these have like a variable in front of it, and that variable of course is the person speaking. So we see 41 appear twice. 41 is, according to the stream chats, it's ID number 1. So now what I can do as I go through this, I can just create all the rest of the text libraries and just write it as I see it on this table. It makes life so much easier. Alright, so now all this has been done and said, it's finally time for me to take a break. See you guys in like, I don't know, a day or so. Alright, you guys, check this out. I am so proud to have finished it this morning, because I thought it would be a nightmare, but it ended up being a lot more easier than I thought. I managed to assign names to each of the IDs without any of them repeating, and I even went ahead and gave them randomized colors. Aw yeah! Score! So as much as I do want to explain this, it is kind of complicated to explain. I find it better to teach and learn by making it together, and thus process of starting from something easy, then adding complications as you go on, one step at a time. But for the most part, it does deal with arrays, and if you don't know about arrays in RPG Maker, it's well worth looking into, especially if you have a long set of things for one variable. Good example is an array of names. It's all the library of names in this one array. I could have done it again for all of my different speakers, but I decided to do it like this instead. Mostly because of how I had things set up in the beginning, and I was too lazy to go back and redo them and rebuild it as an array. So kind of stuck with it, but I'm totally fine with it. I kind of just played Genshin Impact, watched cutscenes on the side as I copy and pasted everything. It's the mindless things. That's how you truly multitask. Anyway, to kind of briefly explain it, first I got my library of names, and then I assigned a random number from 0 to the length of the array, -1 of course, because the first one always starts at element ID 0, and the last one is always the length of it, -1. So I think in this case it's 37 names, so this is at ID 0, this is at ID 36, even though the length is at 37. So I just assign a random number from 0 to 36, shove it in each of the names as they iterate, and then in this chunky portion here, it checks to see if the current name, so like name 9, does that number that got assigned to it, does it equal any of the past numbers, and if it does, then it goes back to the RNG machine to equal a brand new number. And then in this chunk here, this chunk is going to look very messy with this one line. But basically, this is where it first of all randomizes color, and then it takes whatever ID number it was given and goes back into the library of names and changes out that number to that name. So going back to 9, for example, Ozer, your name will appear, and it will be some random color, and that color gets assigned to that name permanently, and the C0 brings it back to the white color so that the text is normal colored. It's a pretty niche want in an RPG Maker game, but hey, if you want to delve into the world of RNG and assigning things so that whatever RNG was before does not get reassigned to something new that you create, then type in the comments that you would like a full tutorial on this and I'll do it up. Otherwise, if you did get the supporter pack, then you can investigate on your own at your own free will. Alright, moving on to the next process. Okay guys, what are you all doing over there? You want to see what I'm working on? Well, alright, come on over. Alright, so check this out. I spent another few weeks under a rock, hidden away from society, totally not updating you guys, but it will look fantastic, I swear. Look, she's saying stuff. Chat's going, and here's the coolest part. I'm in the chat. Isn't that great? And then bam, we have an evidence meter, and this could be used as evidence. Spend some time recording. Wait for a minute. This won't help whatsoever. And look at this. She's gonna say stuff. I'm gonna respond to what she's saying. I'm typing it in chat, and then boom, more comments. It's cool, right? It's cool. I hope it's cool because this is the main feature of the game. Oh yeah, and then there's a 15-minute timer. But here's the coolest part. If I were to try and capture evidence, and you know how it says spends a minute to record, you actually lost a minute. Here, watch this again. Ha 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 ha. Yeah, and then nice. Okay. Yeah, that was the exciting things. So let's see how it works. And honestly, I won't go too deep into it because as you can tell, there's a lot going on here. But I'll just hit the highlights. It's all in here. This first page is just getting the screen set as well as the tutorial and just the introing. And then also turns on a couple of things like pictures and switches, and I'll touch upon those switches in a bit. But do note the dialogue sequence, and you're gonna see that each page is actually controlled by that dialogue sequence. And if you look in it, you'll see that each one has like a switch to it, and that's pretty much your section in the OneNotes. So bang. And the other thing you're probably questioning is, okay, what's A? What's A? So chat A1, this is your A, so it's telling me that we're going to use this portion here for A, and then you'll see somewhere in here that there's the chat A2, and that's this next section, and that's kind of like that. That is that library that you saw me build in here, right here, and they're all associated with an ID. So remember how I said that there's a switch that gets turned on, and that is this. So it runs on parallel process, and to make sure that I keep it as neat as possible, I did kind of chunk all of the A's together. So 1, 2, and 3, and this one is B, 1, and 2. But probably the big question here is, since it's parallel, it should loop back, but I kind of cheated the system by making it stall by throwing a loop. So then it will constantly stall itself in this loop until A2 turns on, and then it will switch pages and then go through this process. And then the same thing here until 3 is on. And then for the last one, it erases the event so that it deletes that loop that kind of just lingers in the background and slow bogs bogs things down. So yeah. But going back in here, you'll see that I do have some manual gab window pushes. I was like, Detective Heart should also be showing up in the chat. So I did them manually. Hi, hello, I'm Detective Hearts. This is my first time watching. That one did take a while, but hey, it's like brainless, tedious work. So I literally just put on a movie and I just type away in the background while I enjoy the movie. Now the other one that you guys are probably wondering about is what's going on with this evidence and how the timer works. Well, very simply, just the built-in timer, control timer. I had it to 15 minutes that you see here. But that shift button, let's see, I believe it's actually in here. Here it is, record evidence. So it is on that switch that I mentioned on page 1, where it kind of just introduces and set things in motion. And then it looks for if the player presses the shift button, some sound effect. If the timer is more than 0, this means it's after she mentions that we're going to have 15 minutes. There's a script call function that you can just do. This one gets the amount of time in frames. 60 frames is 1 second, just FYI. And then I just subtract 1 minute, 60 frames times 60 seconds, 3600. And then we restart the timer, but this time with its new value. It's literally that simple. And then this is of course the incrementer for the evidence. If it's actual evidence, then he'll say, this will make good evidence. And then if you try to spam the shift key during the same section, even though you already captured the evidence, then he'll be like, I wrote this down. And the way that works is if you go back into the script. Let's see, where's the first evidence? Right here, critical evidence, critical evidence. So yeah, there's just like a section. I turn it on. Then if the player ever presses shift during this period of time, then evidence goes up. If not, then too bad, you missed it. It's like once you build all the little small things that you need to do around it, and the last thing you gotta do is just put it together. It's really simple. It's literally like building Legos. And I think if anything, if you guys are trying to create more complicated systems like this one, then that's the way to go around it. Work on the complicated stuff and then just call it and bring it all together. That way if one thing breaks down, it's easy to find it. Oh yeah, and I should also mention that there's a chance that the player can get banned. I'm still trying to figure out what's the right number for it, so don't mind the 3 that you see there. And for now, I think evidence will just be, once you hit 5 critical evidence, then that'll push you along to the true end. But if you don't, then guess you'll never know. Was she kidnapped? Was she not? Here, let's just go through like one sequence. We've only just started and there's so many of you here. I'm Detective Hearts. This is my first time watching. Hi, Aylin. Yay, Aylin's streaming. Hi. Hey, Aylin, how are you? She's being held captive. Tato Blasta. Looks like we have a Detective Hearts in the chat. Welcome to the stream. Are you here to help investigate the mysteries of the cabin? No, I'm here to investigate your case. Ban warning. Continue comments about her kidnapping will result in a ban. And then everyone's like saying, oh my god, this dude is memeing. And then some people are actually like, nah, she ain't safe. And then there's of course the people who just lols and lamals. Anyway, I already tested it a lot. It's mostly just trying to fudge the numbers for balancing to make it actually fun, so that they're not stuck playing this 1,000 times just to try and beat it. That's pretty much all I really gotta do for that portion. But what if I were to tell you I did other things too? I also did the intro, and oh man, while I was going back through the dialogue and typing or anything. I was having a blast. I forgot how goofy I made the original version and how goofy I scripted this one too. Like, you guys want to get some let's get some dialogue. Let's see, I don't want to spoil the like main stuff, so let's see if I can pick one out. So just recall that this is the Love Throne 69 Motel, and we have an old customer of the Love Throne, or a classic member. His name is Old Larry, but I guess we could just call him Larry for short. Well, Detective Hartz was chatting with the motel owner, and Larry happens to be entering where he hears the story, and he kind of joins in on that conversation. But towards the end, he's here for business. I say business like it suggests something, but no, he's here to enjoy himself. Oh god, I can't even say that because that's... Anyway, oh Larry, let's just say, speaking of a night stay, say no more, Larry. The new month's issues are in. My dude likes to come here to read magazines. Let's just say that. Remember, only thing that happens here is making out, so he's just So Larry says, "Woohoo! Enjoy your night, boys." And then Hearts, he puts in a little comment. I really hope that's not me in 10 years. Anyway, have you heard of any new cases? Not that I'm hoping for that on the good of mankind, but a new case might be what I need right about now. So as you can imagine, this is how he catches on about the whole live streamer thing and Aelin suspiciously still being kidnapped and being held captive and forced to live stream, and then it kicks off to the main portion of the game. Overall, this game is probably going to be like 30 minutes long gameplay wise, but I wanted to push it out for Halloween. Don't think I'll manage it in time, so instead it'll just be something fun to play sometime in November. A lot of younger devs out there will have their Thanksgiving break, so if you want to spend like half an hour just laughing and goofing around, then this is the game for it. I mean, this is the game for you. Lots of cheesy jokes and a little bit perverted in some areas, but hey, it's for the lols. What a way to advertise, right? Alright, next up is going through the bugs, fixing it, cleaning it up, and then going through the outro. Outro is pretty much as simple as the intro, mostly just dialogue, but closes on a couple of loops that I left in the first game. We're also going to get a couple more cameos. Oh yeah, I did mention about a couple of special things. So if you do decide to donate on the Itch.io game page, then this entire file will be available for you guys to kind of just open, look through, mess around with, see how I develop things, and I don't know, maybe you'll find something that works well for you. All of the assets will be completely free for you guys to use. That includes all of the images and pictures, sound effects, but for the JavaScript stuff, aka the plugins, this one I do have to be a little bit more careful with. For plugins that are commercially available, I will have to remove it. However, it will remain here in the plugin list, and all of that parameters will remain the same. It's just that you have to purchase it yourself and drag and drop it into your plugin folder, and then everything will turn online. So if you were to donate, download, and immediately test play, it will crash. It won't work. Here's a list of all of the commercial plugins that I use for this game and that you would have to purchase or own yourself to add into here. Just to clarify, it's to prevent pirating and to ensure that all of these developers do get the support. Also, in that donation perk, I will zip up this notebook so that you guys can also see how I start things off in the beginning. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoy, and there will be another video for this that's more like a spotlight highlight video. Probably be less than 10 minutes long, and I hope you check that out when you do. It's very much like this video, and if you haven't seen that yet, then please check it out. It talks about all the nice feature that's in Captive. Alright, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see ya in the next one. Till then, later! Also, please like the video. It would be much appreciated.